If you're looking for a way to create high quality screen recordings, but without an expensive tool with a steep learning curve, then this tutorial is for you. Because today, I'm going to show you how to record and edit videos like this and like this using a tool called Tella, even if you've never edited videos before. Let's take a look. Hey, I'm Melissa, and welcome back to Wit and Wire, where we help everyday experts become profitable course creators. Today, it's undeniable that creating video is a major component to many online business strategies. So if you're looking for a budget-friendly option that doesn't take hours or weeks to learn, then I'm excited to introduce you to Tella, a screen recording tool that combines the ease of Loom with the creativity of Canva to help you create great-looking tutorials and online course videos all with one tool. To start, you'll create an account and choose how you'd like to record. If you visit witandwire.com/Tella, you'll be able to start a free trial. And unless you have 3 or more users, all of us will be on the personal plan. And this is the pricing shown monthly, and then you can save by paying annually. On either price point, you can use the code WITandWire at checkout to save 30% off for the lifetime of your subscription. But for now, let's click try for free and get started. Once you reach the dashboard, the final part of setup is choosing how you'll record, and you have 3 options. The simplest is to choose New Video, which will let you record in the web app. The second is to add the Chrome extension, and the third is to download Tella for Mac. The Mac OS version has a few more features, but all 3 effectively do the same thing. So I'm going to use the web app just because I think that'll match most people's experiences, regardless of which device you choose. Now we're ready to record a video in Tella. From the dashboard, I'm going to click New Video. Here I'm going to enable camera and microphone and click Allow. And this might pop up something like this. You want to use your camera and microphone either until you close the site or as long as you'd like, but I'm going to click allow. Now I can see access has been granted, and if it didn't select the right camera or mic, you could make sure that it had selected your device here. I'm using the Shure MB7, and that it had selected the correct camera. You could also decide to stop the camera if you only wanted to do a screen share, but most of us are likely choosing both camera and screen-based recordings. On the top, you can also see the speaker note area, but since I'm not using it, I'm going to hide speaker notes. Now let's talk about recording modes. Right now I'm in multi-recording mode, which means if I hit the record button, I could click stop, and then I could record again and continue adding clips to a sequence. If you want, you could just do the quick mode, and this would just let you record straight through and then send you into the editor. You can also select past Tella recordings to add to your sequence or upload external videos. So I usually use multi-mode because this gives me the most flexibility. Now, the last thing before we start recording is sharing our screen. So when you click share screen, you have a few options, and this will vary based on which app you're using. So I'm using the web app. If you're using the Mac OS app, you'll have slightly different options. But I can either share my tab from my browser, which is called Brave. Yours probably says Chrome or Safari tab. You could also share the full window or the full screen, but I'm gonna go ahead and click this presentation and click share. Now this brings me over to the other tab. So let me actually pop back to Tella briefly because we haven't yet started the recording. And there are 2 things that are noteworthy. The first is that right now, the layout you see shows the slides on the left and my face on the right. But in Tella, one of their main advantages is the fact that you can edit the layout after recording. So I'll show you what that looks like coming up. For now, just know that you don't need to worry about where the slides appear and where your face appears. The other thing worth noting is that after you record, you can actually trim this area. So you could crop out unwanted parts of your desktop, and especially if you share your full desktop screen rather than one tab, it's a useful feature to know about, and I'll show you what it looks like coming up. If you'd like, instead of sharing your screen, you can also click more to present your slides natively within Tella. But the reason I don't use this is because Tella converts each of your slides into an image, and I include bullet animation on my slides. So I prefer to share my screen so that it's natively looking at actual Google Slides or PowerPoint, but this is totally up to you. At this point, I think we're ready to record, so I'm gonna click the record button. All right, we are officially recording. And when I record, I actually head over to the active tab here, and then I would tab through my presentation, which I'm sure would be extremely informative and right to the point. For now, I'm not gonna go through the entire recording, so I'm gonna go back over to the Tella tab and click stop. Now at this point on the bottom, I can see clip 1, so I have 2 options. I could either click the record button again and keep going, or I could click preview to go into the editor. I'm gonna go ahead and just record another clip briefly. So we'll do the same thing as before. I'm gonna head back over to my slides here, and I can tell now that it's recording because I can see the countdown just off screen. So now I would just go through all of my slides, I would continue to record, and then I would potentially maybe head back to my Tella tab and click stop. This to me looks good for now. I'm going to click preview, and this brings us into editing videos in Tella. We have quite a few options in this right side menu, and I'm actually gonna work from the bottom up. So first, let's crop screen. I mentioned this before, but you now have the option to decide exactly how much of the screen should appear. And maybe I don't like those black bars on the side, so let's click done, and now it's just a clean presentation view. This is also especially useful if you recorded your full desktop screen and wanted to perhaps hide a messy or cluttered desktop. Not that that's any of you, I'm sure all of your desktops are perfectly clean, but just saying. Then on the side, you can also mirror the camera. I don't typically choose that feature, but let's continue working our way up. You could add a border. So you can see if you just look at the corners on both the camera and the screen, you have the corner versus the rounded view. You can also decide if you want kind of like a soft border or a much more pronounced border and shadow. This is totally dependent on your brand. For today, I'm gonna keep it to this kind of soft shadow and apply to all clips. Now let's continue moving up and click layout. Here's how you can change your video layout in Tella. If you click the layout button, you'll see quite a few different options, and I'm gonna scroll back up to the top. You can see that the colors are pairs, and the difference is just where your camera appears typically. So these pairs show either my camera on the left or the right, but it's generally the same setup. This gives me a view where the camera overlaps with the slides a bit. You can see here the camera is on the top right or the bottom right. Maybe you want the camera in a circle or a square. So you can see just as you scroll down, there are quite a few different options that you can choose from, and they all feel a little bit different. This one doesn't include the camera. This one is only the camera. So for now, maybe I'll choose this view, or I think maybe this view suits our presentation a bit better. And then let's move one level up to backgrounds. Here you can add either an image, an animated background, or a color. So let's say I choose this animated background. Once you click the play button on the bottom, it'll become a bit more obvious that the background moves. And I think that this works really well for some YouTube videos, for some online courses. If it's subtle, I think that it could make a lot of sense. In other cases, I think a solid color is going to be a better fit. Maybe I'll choose just this option for now, and you can add a brand color here or even a gradient. I would say for an online course, this, I would argue, is a bit less distracting. If I'm already going to be skimming through slides, as you can see me doing if I just go back a little bit, I think it's possible that the background having an animation could be a bit distracting, but it's totally up to you. You'll also notice that although I've applied these changes to clip 2, if I go back to clip 1, I'm looking at a different background, it's a different layout, and so it's up to you when you pick a layout. You can either decide to click something here and apply to all clips, or you could apply it to just one clip. For a slide-based video for an online course, most likely you would keep a consistent layout, but maybe for a YouTube video, you want to try different layouts to keep the interest of your viewers. Up next, we can add a zoom feature in Tella. So let's say we were working on clip number 1, and I'm going to click the zoom feature. I'm going to click add zoom, and when I click the play button, you'll see a bit of what this can do. You can obviously change a little bit about how long of a clip this should apply to. So maybe I only want it to apply to here, and maybe I want it to be a bit slower. So now let's take a look and see what that looks like. You can also change the scale. So if you don't want it to zoom in that much, maybe you just want it to be slight, you can adjust that here. So now we just have a subtle zoom where it goes to full screen. You can see how using zooms can help add a little bit of dynamic movement to your video. It'll be overkill for things like an online course video, but again, it might be useful for a YouTube video or a tutorial. Let's click done. And now let's head into the trim feature. This is what I would call the classic part of any video editing tool, because this is where you can trim the ends of your video and split and cut pieces of the video so that the flow is steady and removes any errors or pauses. To trim the ends, you can just hover your cursor over the end and then drag the cursor like this. For a more precise editing approach, you can use your keyboard to move arrow keys to the right or the left. You'll hit the play button in order to check and see if it's exactly where you wanted it to start, and then you can do this to the beginning and the end of each of the clips in your sequence. After your trims, you may want to listen through your video to figure out where you need to split the video to remove pauses or errors. So let's say I knew that this piece in the middle was something I wanted to cut out. Maybe I would put my cursor here and then click the split button, and then I could either hit play and continue, and then maybe go to about here and then split and then click delete. Or if I click undo a couple of times, maybe what I would do instead is click on this piece and then once again use the trim feature to get this exactly to the point where I wanted the video to continue. Again, you would do this for each of your clips. You would split any pieces where you wanted to add a cut to the video, and then use the backspace or the delete button to remove them from your video. Once you're done, you'll click the done button, which brings you back into the full editing area, and then you can click finish. Next, let's share your Tella video. From this screen, you can change the title, which I would recommend. So I would call this the 4 C's of course creation and click enter. And then on the right, you'll notice that you can get back into the editor here anytime, or you can go directly into the trim area if you're just looking for the more essential editing tools. Back on this screen, you can also see the share or download buttons. So if you want to share it via a link, you can copy this link to your clipboard. You can also embed it into a course creation platform here, and you might decide to add it to a channel. So a channel in Tella is a folder. And as a pro tip, I do recommend using folders to manage your organization. So I have one for a course, and I might have one for my YouTube channel. Instead of sharing, you might prefer to download your video. Maybe you need to upload it natively into your course platform, or maybe this is a YouTube video. When you click the download button, you'll have a few options here, and then you can start the export. You can also see the edit subtitles option if you want to do something manually, or change the overall settings, or even copy all of the subtitles to your clipboard. And then finally, under view settings, this is where you can decide if you want to enable comments or show view counts, but in Tella, they are disabled by default, which I think is the default setting most creators would look for. Overall, I think Tella is a great choice for a lot of course creators, YouTubers, and online business owners. And if you're ready to get started, you can visit witandwire.com/Tella to start your free trial. Don't forget, you can also use the code WITandWire at checkout to save 30% off monthly or annual plans. And if you're curious which additional equipment I recommend for course creators like video cameras or microphones, you can download our free video toolkit at witandwire.com/video toolkit. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to Wit and Wire before you go so you don't miss any of our upcoming online business tutorials. While you're here, here's another video I think you might find useful.